I'd like to welcome you to this lecture on early brain development, why early intervention is critical to long-term mental health. It's every child's right to have optimal cognitive, social, and emotional behavioral development. Behavior is the manifestation of the brain, so what that means is that brain health needs to be maintained across the lifespan, and brain health really begins early in life. Medical practitioners have a stake in that, in ensuring that brain health is good across the lifespan. For us healthcare providers, whether we're obstetricians, family practitioners, or pediatricians, we care for the mother, the fetus, and the child, and we're concerned with the long-term mental health outcomes. And we do that by providing optimal environments, identifying risk factors either during the pregnancy or after the pregnancy with the child, through early diagnosis of problems, and then instituting early medical intervention and proper referral and coordination of services for the family. Now, as those of us who take care of children, and children are kind of the ones we're interested in here, it's important to realize that the time frame actually starts preconceptually. There's now good evidence that child mental health is dependent on the mom's health even before she becomes pregnant. And it certainly continues throughout the pediatric lifespan on through adolescence and into early adulthood. So the time frame is really quite large. There's a lot of interest in early events and later outcomes. The whole field has developed around that. Wordsworth knew this back in the 1800s, and he said that the child is the father of the man. Now, in the more contemporary times, we refer to this as the developmental origins of health and disease. And initially, that concept that things that happen in the pediatric time frame affecting long-term health was applied mostly to cardiovascular disease, to risk of diabetes, hypertension, heart attacks, and so on. But we've really come to realize in the modern age that the same actors that are involved in giving the risk for heart disease also affect mental health. Development is really based on factors that are mutable, like experience, and also on things that are not as mutable, and that's genetics. And the intersection of the two, a field that's called epigenetics. So experience-dependent influences can affect how genes are expressed and therefore the functioning of the brain. The key to why early events affect later outcomes is that all organs, but especially the brain, are rapidly growing in the late fetal, early neonatal period, and really up to about the age of 3. I'm going to show you a diagram about that in a little while here. Any organ that is rapidly developing is highly vulnerable to insults. For example, disruption of nutrients that are important for brain development are going to be greater when the brain is rapidly developing and has a high need for those nutrients. What we have here is a demonstration of brain development across the lifespan. I'm going to use my cursor here to show you that we start on this x-axis here well before birth, and we continue. And you can see how the x-axis has really been stretched here with months taking up quite a bit of the diagram, years being a little bit more compressed, and at the end over here, decades being highly compressed. And you can see these waves of brain activity happening here. Various areas, for example, the visual cortex and auditory cortex, the receptive and language areas, and even higher cognitive function mediated by the prefrontal cortex are all developing prenatally, there's birth, and throughout that first year, 2 years, and 3 years. And I've put a purple box around 0 to 3 to show you why prenatal and 0 to 3 interventions pay off. It's the time of most rapid brain development. It's the time when the brain is most receptive to positive stimuli, but also at greatest risk for negative. As we move out with the hatched lines here, you'll see there's less and less happening. It becomes more and more difficult to change the brain the older that the kid gets.